hear me? I know it's dark, y'all, and I ain't even think about it. Hold on, let me brighten it up just a little bit. Hello. I know y'all haven't seen me. I'm talking to a live video on YouTube. Mhm. So, I titled this video "Woke versus Awakening versus Spiritual." Um, and again, y'all know me by now. Everything is fluid. There's nothing that's concrete. So even if I sound matter of fact, it's not meant for you to just take it and run with it, you know? We're moving out of the energy of let me worship or follow or just listen to other people and do what I'm told. We're moving out of that energy, okay? Um you you're moving into an energy where you learn from everything around you and you create your own personal understanding and you use your discernment and you move forward the way that you decide to move forward, because there's things that you can use and there's things that you can't use. You don't need to take it all, you're not them. Hello, Sarah. So I'm not in this video I'm not here to tell you the definition of woke, awakening, and spirituality. That's not what I'm gonna do. You see, a lot of people, like when I do stuff, they'll be like, what is it about? What you mean, what is it about? You vibing or you not? Everything I do is peer to peer, so either you catch it or you don't. you know this requires you to use your brain, your heart brain, not that one in your head. Anyway, so the reason I'm doing this video is because I'm realizing that, again, it's very odd, these people that are waking up right now. um how do I say it? Okay, there's the awakening agenda, along with all the other agendas, the hijacking of the awakening, right? There's that out there happening. So you've got people that are kind of like just jumping on the bandwagon of the awakening agenda, but they're not actually connecting to source and having a personal experience. They're just trying to be relevant, right? You got them. And then you got the spiritual people who've been spiritual from like for eons, generations of family, whether it be African traditional, Native American traditions, Asian traditions, that's the group of spiritual people. You can be spiritual and still not be like awakening. Like I'm just now realizing that this thing that I got going on and a lot of y'all got going on with this awakening and this star seed thing and these angel numbers and 1111, it is very it's niche. It's very particular, okay? Because I'm starting to realize as I have conversations with people that some people are just spiritual. They might be coming into their spiritual gifts. They might be tapping into their ancestral energy. Those things may be waking up in them, but they're not necessarily seeing synchronicities or seeing angel numbers or concerned with extraterrestrial anything, okay? um a lot of people, when I connect with them, I think it goes over their head when I share my awakening story with them. the angel number part goes over their head. I woke up to 1111, which is a code. It's like the trumpets. It's like, it's a code that activated me. Okay. And what's so funny is, before I personally started seeing numbers, like a year before, I noticed that people were posting the time on Facebook. And I'm like, why are they posting the time? I ain't think anything of it. Okay. I was like, oh, it must be some kind of challenge or whatever. And I did not think about it anymore after that. And between the time that I saw that and the time that I started seeing 1111, I did not have any instances where I was seeing synchronicities or had the awareness of angel numbers. It wasn't until I started seeing 1111 everywhere that I finally looked into it. And I probably saw it for weeks before I clicked and said, you know what, maybe this has something to do with why people be posting the time on YouTube. Okay. Um, so I finally typed in Google, why are people posting the time? Or what is 1111? And from that moment on, it was rabbit hole city. I was constantly seeing angel numbers. Um, it was all angel numbers for me and research in the very beginning. Once I found out or became aware of what 1111 was about, then I started looking into astrology. My first ever astrological service that I got was Vedic. So my spirit led me to Vedic astrology, even though I pulled back and I stayed in the comfort zone with Western astrology all the way up until about 2018. Like, so for like 4 years, I stayed in the comfort zone of Western astrology, even though my very first reading was Vedic. Um, but yeah, it started with astrology. Then I learned Reiki. And as part of Reiki, you start meditating. So that went together. So I was into astrology. I started learning Reiki, and then I started meditating. When I started meditating, that's when more angel numbers showed up, different sequences, and also synchronicities. I started to notice synchronicities. I started to become more aware of what was going on in my world. Okay. And I started actually receiving more messages um, with my clairs. So my spiritual team knew how I operated. If I heard a word, saw something I didn't understand in meditation, they knew I was going to Google it. And they would lead me right to the information that they wanted, because there's some stuff at first I would Google it and I would think it's that thing, and they'll be like, nope, that's not it. Keep looking. And sometimes it would take me like a week and a half to figure out what they was trying to tell me. Even now, sometimes when things happen, it takes me a little while to click to everything that's going on. But my bottom line is, during my awakening, after I started meditating and seeing more angel numbers and getting more synchronicities, all I did was research, research, research everything that popped up, just like everybody does. And then it's so crazy, you can't keep up with it. And finally, your team is like, you don't have to remember all of this stuff. But I dove into my extraterrestrial lineage very early on. So I was working with ET energy very early on, before I even started doing readings on YouTube. Personally, I started off with automatic writing, and then I started off with channeling. And in the early days, it was the Andromedans and the Arcturians exclusively that I was working with before I ever started a YouTube channel. Okay. And the Arcturians, I worked a lot with them with activations. They came into my Reiki sessions that I was giving, and they would pretty much take over, and it would be this smash up of light codes and all kinds of stuff. That's what that looked like for me. So later on in my journey, I would run into different people from different backgrounds, and they would bring up certain stuff, especially because I'm African American. I've got plenty of friends that are on that path, interested in their tradition, in their African spirituality and things like that, Kemet, all that stuff. But I was never interested in those things, and I never felt a call to get into that and actually practice those things, those traditions, right? The energy never really called to me personally. However, I would notice that people would come to me and say that they recognize certain energies within me. And I'm like, that's cool, but I'm not about to do this or that just because you see this or that, right? Um, until an energy comes to me or until I feel strongly pulled, I'm not going to just go and be a part of this or do that. It's a very personal and real journey. Spirituality happens to me. And the one thing that has never left is angel numbers and star seed energy and my connection to my ET fam. Okay, that's a big deal. And one thing that I noticed, now this is just my perception because, hey, there may be more of us out there, but as far as black folk are concerned, you don't see a lot of black people talking about extraterrestrials on any level, whether it's starseed or just science stuff or science fiction. You don't really see it publicly. So in my early days, I would have conversations with people, and I would notice that they were in their box, and I respect their box. They could stay right where they are. They could continue to use the energies that they use and do what they do. I'm not trying to stop them. You see what I mean? But I would get jabs thrown at me because of the fact that I wasn't practicing African spirituality or something, I guess, more acceptable for an African American or whatever the case may be, right? But it's not just that. It's not even just about heritage, race, or anything like that. There would be people that had an aversion to extraterrestrial things, and they only hung out in the angelic realm, you see? So, like, there's these boxes with people. See, and for me, when I host my events and when I'm doing my work, I'm going to speak to you in the language that you understand, no matter what your tradition is. I work with people across the board. This is why I know a little bit about as many different traditions as possible. Um, but my guides do the rest. They just, again, a lot of my work is channeled. Um, but yeah, being woke to me, the way that I perceive it is just having a whole bunch of knowledge that you're not really doing anything with, or having a whole bunch of knowledge that you're controlling somebody else with, or having a whole bunch of knowledge and you're actually teaching it and passing it down, and you have like a whole way of life and you're actively living through that knowledge. Okay, but it's more knowledge based. I still don't perceive the connection directly to source or the service to humanity in that there's a whole bunch of boxes. You'll see families or people that are woke that have their cliques, or they pass the information down to their children, and they live a certain way of life, and they mind their business, and they don't really fool with nobody else. You know what I'm saying? And then you have the people who, again, now it's not my place to say whether this is because they're fear based, but I know some people who think that all other energies are negative, so they hide within the angelic realm. So when they wake up or whatever's going on with them, they say, "Oh, I'm only dealing with the angels because everything else, that's it gets crazy or it's dangerous." Those people that are constantly like, protect yourself, protect yourself, protect yourself. You see what I mean? Um, they got something else going on. That is not the 1111 awakening. Okay. A lot of these people out here that have their different things going on, one thing I've noticed across the board is that they're not really talking about the collective or serving the collective. It's not about the global awakening. It's not about moving into the fifth dimension. It's not about, angel numbers and really trying to get people to they're it not even trying to get people to anything. Igniting the light. It's not about any of that. It's not about they're in their box. Hey, um they're not talking about ascension, and there's nothing wrong with they're doing, because they're very helpful, very talented people. But what I want y'all to understand is the 1111 awakening is a code. It was a clarion call, and it activated people. Okay. It activated people, and then those people activate other people, and then eventually everybody seeing angel numbers. Okay, like the 1111 awakening particularly will have groups of people from all walks of life and all traditions saying the same key things. Yo, I'm seeing angel numbers. I'm seeing 1111. I'm dealing with some stuff going on in my life that ain't normal. When you're just waking up to your gifts and stuff, I highly doubt that you're aware, because it's not like you're not having what do you call it, ascension symptoms. But you're not aware of it because you're not thinking about it, because you're not seeing 1111, and you're not googling it, and you're not trying to find out anything about the awakening. You see what I mean? You're over here, you may be practicing traditional magic, whatever the case may be, and just not have the awareness. That's another thing. This is what they mean by, like in the Bible, when they say one person could be laying next to the other one and be gone, disappear. This is what they mean in the awakening communities when they say that the shift to the fifth dimension or the new earth is dimensional. It's kind of like how Atlantis had that dome over it. It was there, but only people of a certain vibration could see it. Okay? So you could be chilling with a spiritual person or a woke person, and they still won't know anything about the 1111 awakening. Okay, I want y'all to understand that, because I just realized that sometimes we might think just because somebody's wearing crystals that they are a star seed or a light worker. Nah, this is a particular thing, and it don't mean that everybody that starts to wake up is gonna call themselves call themselves a star seed or a light worker. That's not what I mean. But at least they will understand you when you're talking about synchronicities. about the Mandela effects, about extraterrestrial galactic history, talking to you about becoming a galactic community, dimensional realities, parallel realities, things like that. Okay. And they're not just stuck with, oh, whatever they're doing in their box. You see what I mean? Because I think a lot of us assume that woke and spiritual people are on the ascension path, and you won't know until you actually like start talking to them whether they are having a similar experience to you. Star seeds, when we meet each other, light workers, when we meet each other, we have a code. Okay, like we have a code. There's certain things when you eye to eye with somebody, you know. We can talk about ascension symptoms. We can talk about these energies, right? Pineapple juice. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. And there's an energy about light workers too. They radiate. It's real strong, man. Star seeds and light workers, because that's what you're here for. You're here to hold a large amount of light and put it out. Okay? You can have spiritual people and woke people that don't feel the same. You don't feel that energy because guess what? A lot of times they're trying to block it, cloak it. They're trying to protect themselves from everything. There's a lot of fear going on in some of them boxes. And then there's some people that are under the illusion that they're not scared, that they're not in fear, yet they're throwing negative energy and they're in this active spiritual war and threatening people and talking about how they got to protect themselves. Look, I don't live in that world. That world is very real for some people, but that world is not real for me. I don't live in a world where I don't know that I am source energy and that I'm always protected. Okay? It doesn't mean that I don't have energetic issues sometimes where I got to pull back and just be in my own energy and recharge. It just means that I'm not worried and I'm not in an active war, conflict, throwing words back and forth and energy back and forth and hexing people and going on, all that drama. That's earth-based stuff. In the higher dimensions, those things is that they're not necessary. It's not necessary. When you're talking about telepathy and heart space, and when you're talking about portals and timeline jumps, that's when you know you're talking to a light worker or a star seed that's on the ascension path. I mean, ascension period, the word itself. When you say it around certain people and they don't respond, you know that they're not on the same path as you. Okay? So my whole point for doing this video is because you need to be discerning about who's on the bandwagon and who's still bound to the earthbound traditions. There's nothing wrong with them. You can be practicing the earthbound traditions and still be on an ascension path. You could be woke and still be on an ascension path. Okay, I don't want y'all to get it twisted, but you'll know who it is. Okay, you'll know who it is. Because the bottom line, no matter what you're doing, is that heart space, the word ascension, the word angel numbers, the vibe itself feeling somebody out, because remember, there is that agenda where there's fake everything. The vibe itself, that light really pouring through and shining out. Okay. um when you are on the ascension path, you are just going to gain more and more and more until you eventually release the belief system and you come into knowing, and you're filled with so much light that sometimes you just want to be telepathic. You wonder why you even gotta talk. You see, like, you really are embodying yourselves as a legion, as a whole. You see what I mean? um and you're going through them rough ascension symptoms that other people think they're just sick, and they going to the doctor and they ain't getting no answers, but you know that you're going through ascension symptoms. And once you go to the doctor and they say ain't nothing wrong with you, you gonna hop in that salt bath. You gonna take them herbs. You gonna rest. You gonna meditate. You gonna ask your spiritual team to help you. Ascension is happening to you. It's active. You were activated, and after you're activated, you just continue more and more activations, and then you're activating other people. Okay, this is a whole mission that you're dealing with that is very specific, and it's literally about humanity, not just your family, not just your abilities, and you pick and choose who you want to deal with and all this and that. No, this is a big thing. It's bigger than you when you're dealing with the 1111 awakening. It's not a situation where you're part of a secret society and you're hiding information, or you're saying no boys allowed, no girls allowed, and all this and that mess. There's a whole lot of confusion going on out there, and I just want y'all to be aware and discern who and what you pay attention to in the now, because where attention goes, energy flows. Okay? And the distractions are very real right now. And it's starting to get really weird out there. Your best meter is your heart and your energy. You gotta feel things out. We feel things in the higher dimensions. We don't think about it. If something don't seem right, it probably ain't right. It don't matter how it look or how many documents it has in front of you to read, trying to prove something. No, if it don't feel right, it ain't right, man. Yes. And I'm telling y'all right now, some people, again, are fake awakening, and that's okay, because it's going to hit them. Everybody eventually is going to get the business, okay? But there's some of us that have been going through ascension symptoms for years, okay? This is not a new thing. But once it started, don't stop. It don't stop. And it's not for the faint at heart. These symptoms are very real, and you go through some things. This is like a process of initiation, purification. You're literally being transfixed. Your DNA is connecting. Okay? And every time I think about ascension symptoms, I think about X-Men. I think about Wolverine. Because the galactics, the spiritual realm is being very, very gentle with us. We may be miserable and tired, but it could be a lot worse if it happened any faster. Okay? We're literally going through atomic changes. Literally. And we're doing it as a huge group now, not just a small group. We're doing it like as a whole planet compared to when the Mayans and the other ancient civilizations did it. Those were smaller groups. Now we're doing it on a big scale. This has been done before, but not at this scale. Okay? That's why it's so interesting to all of the higher beings that are watching us, because they're like, man, all right, we did our test runs, we did our little so it's like when you buy something to remove stain from a couch, they say try it on an inconspicuous spot first before you do the big spot. That's what happened, and now we're here, we're doing the big spot. So yeah, it's a little weird out there, you guys. I know a lot of y'all still probably love your family and want the best for them, but it's so important to love people from afar right now, because I promise you, they want to try to snatch you back over that fence. And this is not a, I'm not telling you that so you can be like on guard or fearful or anything, or even threatening people before they even do anything. I'm not telling you any of that for you to do any of that. I'm just saying it for your awareness, because we are linked. We help each other. There's things that my starseed lightworker friends will say. They'll just be talking about something, and I will come into a realization like, yo, that's what's been going on this whole time. I knew I wasn't tripping, because sometimes you feel something, but you don't really put it together. And then your spirit guides will send somebody to help you out, give you a clue. That's what I'm doing. But it's not for you to take action outside of yourself. Just keep doing your spiritual hygiene. Fortify your aura. Keep bringing in that light and sending it out. No is a full sentence. You don't need to explain why you switched up. You don't need to explain why you're not available. Because the moment that you respond, it's literally, they're going to take a mile with that little inch that you gave them. And you're going to get caught up. And when you get caught up, it's going to be really hard to kind of get out of that. You're going to have to do extra salt baths, extra meditations, extra candles, whatever you do. It's going to take a lot to get up out of that compared to maybe a couple of years ago. The energy is really desperate right now. And it'll show up as anything that it needs to show up as, just to get your attention, just to take your energy, just to have your time. Yeah. Kevin said that these symptoms been going on since the 80s. This awakening thing, and that's another thing. You got to release the idea of time. We are inside of the blink of the eye. Okay? You are actively being transfixed. If you don't know what transfixation is, look it up. Look up the story of Yeshua. Look up the story of Enoch. Okay? You that are on the ascension path will eventually gain a light body so that you can survive in the new earth plane. You can't go there with your body being just regular 3D. It has to go through some things. This is why your appetite keep changing and all this and that, because you're not going to eat the same when you get over there. Take your time with yourself. This is not about what you should be doing and trying to keep up with the next person. Everybody is waking up at different times. Everybody's got different missions, different, you know, opportunities. Because I don't even want to use the word missions. The opportunities present themselves for you to be of service. It's all about synchronicity. You see what I mean? It's all about catching it, catching the energy and rolling with it. The bounce back. She said the bounce back. Rudy said, "What's really woke? What is really woke? Is Let me catch that. Well, what's really woke? I don't know, because I stated earlier in this video that I wasn't given definitions of any of those things. And this is all my perspective. And I was just telling y'all about what I've been noticing. Because, again, when you're a multidimensional being having a human experience here, and you're operating from your creator self, you understand that not everybody has your eyes and not everybody is creating what you're creating. So they may not see, feel, hear, or understand what you got going on, and that's okay. Because when synchronicities happening and you're aligning, you'll be dealing with the right people at the right time, and they will pick up what you're putting down. Most definitely. There's a few people today that took some impromptu naps. This energy is hitting hard and it ain't letting up. But eventually we will all meet at a point of love. And it ain't the love that we know as humans. It's that source love. It's that divine love where all of the things that you could possibly think about right now won't matter, won't even exist. The concept will be completely gone. So when you think about those people that haven't woke up that you had to let go of, like if you think about the concept of them waking up later and calling you, asking you questions and how you're going to respond to it, none of that's going to matter when your heart busts open and you filled with divine light and you are the I am. None of that's going to matter. There's just I'm starting to realize how much of the complicated tangled web that's being weaved right now with this whole desperate situation with the whole human saga, you know, it's not gonna matter, none of it. Feelings, all of these different emotions and these expressions of what we think is love but is actually fear in a lot of cases. Okay. All of that is gonna be gone. It's Nothing's gonna be left but divine light. And it's gonna be delicious. It's gonna be great. Some of us have already shifted. Some of us come and go back and forth. Um, excuse me. I'm on Dolores Cannon's last Convoluted Universe book, and it reminds me of the moments where I have fifth dimensional moments where everything outside looks HD. My water tastes good. That apple tastes extra good. It's going to be like that all the time when you can sustain the energy. Simple little stuff that you take for granted is going to be so enjoyable and stuff that you wouldn't, it tastes like whatever. It's gonna taste really, really good, and it's gonna sustain you for longer periods of time. You're not gonna need as much food. Why do you think that people are fasting more now these days? Because your body is telling you you need to get acclimated to fasting. But again, it's in your time, because you're awakening at a different level, different way. The way that your spirals are spinning ain't gonna be like the next person. It's literally like a fingerprint. But that's why you see a lot of this stuff. So what's naturally and organically occurring is always being mimicked by the ones that want to hijack and manipulate. They're going to take what's naturally and organically occurring and try to capitalize off of it, manipulate, and hold people down with it. Okay. One thing I can tell you before I get up off of this rant is it's very important for you to be responsible for yourself and others. What do I mean by that? Do not sit around and wait for somebody to have integrity with you. Do not sit around and wait for somebody to wake up. Don't sit around and wait for somebody to change. You have to make the command decision that if it ain't vibing, you have to disconnect. That's what I mean by being responsible for yourself and others. You'll face many people who drink much haterade along the way. Stay alive and awake. That's what I'm talking about. Forgive me, y'all. My ear is itching. But yeah, y'all have a beautiful evening. I felt like I should pop in and have that conversation with you. Um and I'll see you soon. Love to you all. Go forth and create.